Evening guys, Martin here from TSI. Another video, 2 days in a row. But these things are still exciting. As we saw in yesterday's video, I've got my little Azrael XTP in tan gas blowback gel blaster. A few little more bits and pieces just in playing with them. I've measured, hang on, pop it off. The rail here is what's called a 1913 Picatinny rail. It is not the Glock based rail. So if you have any accessories designed for Glocks, the Glock rail is much skinnier here. The cutout is skinnier, so some things might be loose and wobbly. This Olight Valkyrie PL2, probably won't be able to tell light wise, let me get my torch, but on the groove, you know, the slot that sits in the groove, it will say 1913 on it. I cannot show it. So that is the same as a universal Picatinny rail. It's not a Glock. So that's good. So any Glock accessory, any 1913 accessory should fit on here. The length they have managed to get perfect. So this is basically made the same spec as your Streamlight TLR ones, your Surefire. This will have the right measurement to the base there, so that it's going to sit up pretty tight to the front of your trigger guard, so that the slot sits in your groove. As you can see, sits in there absolutely perfect. What that does is it brings the button right to the front of my trigger guard here. So when I'm presenting the pistol, I've got my finger straight on it, or on this side, I've got my thumb as well. So it works absolutely spot on. A little bit longer than the muzzle, of course, because it is a 4-inch-ish barrel. This is the same with a real firearm. It will sit over proud like that. Whilst talking with Shannon, Shaka's Clacker, the tech at the armory for Azrael, he said to me, "Hey Marty, the Shark has got an adjustable trigger." And I said, "Yes, I know. I remember seeing that in a video months ago." I completely forgot. The XTP is the same. So essentially it's this frame and this design of trigger that is adjustable. Okay, so what you need to do that is we pop this pin out. Push it out. Same as I did last night. Oh, sorry, I need to take the slide off. Pull it back. Pop the pin out. It's still very tight. Pull it back and off she comes. Now, this is also going to be tricky for you to see. You're going to have to pull the trigger to release it, so the hammer will pop up. Now in here, let's make sure we're not on locked focus. Down in there, there is an Allen key. It is a 1.5 mil, I do believe. I had to dig through my Allen keys to find it, but I got it. Down in there, on the right hand side of the trigger, there is a little Allen key head. I do have to hold the trigger back with my finger to get the Allen key in there. Turning it anti-clockwise, lefty-loosey, does change the trigger. Now, it doesn't change the trigger weight. It is not an adjustable weight trigger. What it does is it changes the travel, the pre-travel of the trigger. From the factory trigger, the travel on it was roughly 4 or 5 millimeters of travel before the first wall where it would break. And as you can see now, it's maybe at the very bottom of the apex, 2 millimeters maybe. So that has given it a shorter travel trigger and a lighter reset, so that we have a nice trigger pull. Very hard to show you on camera. Left-handed. First pressure, you see I've got a few millimeters, or 2 millimeters of travel, if that. And then immediately, so that's very, very light. That's not even half a pound of pressure. You get to the first wall, and release. That's probably a 2-pound trigger, extremely light, which is great. When we get to do a little bit of IGBC style shooting, bang, and obviously reset, bang, reset, bang, should work pretty well. Now, speaking of IGBC, this evening we were playing with these in the arena at Azrael. As it is, we were comfortably, easily, without a drama, able to aim at and hit the steel target that I have hung, which is around about 35 centimeters by about 25 centimeters rectangular. Without a drama, we were hitting those targets across the 5 to 7 meter arena floor. We then went back as far as we could, which is around about probably 13 meters, and with a adjusted muzzle tech hop up that Azrael has obviously made for these, we were able to hit that target easily, consistently at that 12 to 13. The flight was still flat and more consistent in our grouping. When we stretched out a little bit more from corner to the front door, probably 15 meters I think it is, our grouping was a foot at biggest. Now of course there might be one explode in there might be one veer off, but the consistency was there for the broad spectrum of the shots. Now, those inconsistent ones is the gel. Might be a little nick in it, hence the explosion. Might be out of round and it veer off. Superb results. So we have the muzzle techs that, in case anyone doesn't know, unfortunately when Brent from Azrael was working on the prototypes of these for the last year, the muzzle tech screws on to the reverse 12mm thread here, and it has to seat perfectly to the stainless inner barrel. See in here the stainless inner barrel, and as you can see the barrel moves, the depth changes on the outer barrel here. So it has to be at this point here that it has to sit perfectly and not bind, otherwise the slide will not retract. And then we have to have the correct jump from the barrel to the hop up on slide forward. We were expecting to have to send them back to the machinist to get some taken off, but this evening I hand filed one down to the point where it would timed and work perfectly. We got one running. We're going to try and get as many done as we can. For anyone that pre-ordered them, we'll get them out as soon as possible. And at that point, we have working hop-ups for our guest blowbacks. Great news. Just goes to show that Brent's R&D was perfect on his prototype, and the barrels came around about 1.5 mil longer than the prototype variant. So we should have that nailed pretty quickly. Tomorrow evening I might try and get a little bit of footage in the arena, just playing with a couple of the steel targets. We don't have any walls, etc. set up yet, so we can run the IPSC style stages with windows and doors and walls and different targets. But we do have the 5 targets set up that we can just ring steel and have a bit of fun. Then we're going to try the light up lights you may have seen in the video from Nuketown some time back. The single hit pod style lights. We're hoping that we get decent enough accuracy so within a couple of shots be able to knock them out, turn them off and move on. That's how we're going to get our timing based score. That's it guys. Out of the 5 magazines I've got, they're all running perfectly. As we were talking about yesterday, it is crucial to make sure we're lubing the O-ring down in here to make sure it's not pinching as you undo it. I have heard there has been some of the valves that have leaked from new. If that's the case, go back and see Azrael. They do have enough magazines to be able to replace them if they're not working from new, and there is an abundance of replacement valves for if they go wrong later down the line. It will be a wear and tear item. It has got to hold, I don't know how much PSI, 100 PSI, or whatever they hold within that valve. So it more than likely will wear. Azrael have replacement feed lips, have replacement nozzles, I believe, the gas valve, base pads, all the things that can break. Azrael have already got them in stock. Speaking of, there is also machine style slides that are kind of like the XTP. They are non-auto models. There is also stock of the fiber optic style sights that come on the Shark and the Dragonfly and the other custom variants that are not available yet, I believe, because they're brand new. They've got to be tested and fitted and make sure everything works. But guys, that's me out for the evening. I'm going to go and take my baby and put it back in the box. So, bang. Let's put the eye light back on there so that I know where it is next time I want it. It won't go walkies. Click her on. She's working. Back in the box. And I showed you guys yesterday, it isn't the box it came with. That's the box they come with. This is actually a box from my Smith & Wesson M&P 22 caliber semi-automatic pistol. Good night, guys. Thank you. Speak to you soon.